Hey all, round number 3, we got Kalgara versus Gecko Moria, my locals run here. Gecko Moria ended up taking the play. I am going second here, which I don't mind going second as Kalgara, as it does allow me to kind of set up some of my plays. I do have the Ohm Holy combo in hand. We'll start with a stage effect here, let my opponent read it. And we're going to look at the top 5, try to find something interesting, Sky Island type searchable card. There, it looks like there's only one option here. That's the first Nolan of the game I'm going to be putting on the bottom here. And we'll grab the Holy to hand here. Holy, I've already got a copy of Holy in hand. Ohm also searched for another one, so this Holy is just an extra here. Typically with Gecko Moria, they're likely gonna drop a Perona here if they have one in hand. Yep, see the Perona come out here. Perona's gonna come into play, make me discard a card. We're gonna pitch that Holy, and then I am gonna go ahead and just counter out of that. I want to keep my life high. Gecko Moria can go wide and destroy my things at the same time. We do manage to find the Noland here. Now all we gotta find is the Kalgara, and we have a pretty solid curve here. Gonna go ahead and swing 5 at lead. Opponent's going to go ahead and take that, go down to 4. And we're going to go ahead and tap 4 here and play the Ohm, searching the top 5. Trying to see if maybe we find a Holy, but we've already got one in hand. There's another Nolan we're putting at the bottom here. So far I've seen 2 Nolans go to the bottom. Unfortunately a whiff on that, as the likelihood was not very high, as we already saw 2 Holies in hand. We're going to play that Holy out here and then pass the turn back to my opponent here. Do have the Big Mom in hand. I ended up cutting Big Mom from the deck. Big Mom was like a nice alternative to kind of break up these weird board states and still try to get some value, right? Either gaining you a life or trashing a card, but it's honestly not what the deck wants to be playing. I would have rather liked to have an Ace in that position. So I think running Ace just overall for the rush is just a lot better in this specific version, but we're running this version tonight, just trying to test it out here. Take that first hit there, ends up being a Kalgara. We have the perfect play here. Kalgara into good old Noland to gain a life. Opponent's gonna go ahead and swing 5 at lead here. My hand don't really want to counter with anything because my hand is actually honestly pretty counterless. I want to keep those 2 cards in hand. Opponent's gonna go ahead and play out a Sabo, and then he's gonna pass to me here. This is the turn. I'm gonna do, you know, the typical play line here is attach 1 to lead, swing at leader, put Kalgara into play, and then play the Noland out of hand. We're going to go ahead and swing, attach, get ready here, swing 6. We're going to send 6 at lead here. We're going to use leader's effect, play out Kalgara. We're going to take a life. Life puts Noland back, or Ohm. And then opponent rips a, what is that, a hollow? It's the discard card. So opponent that gets to discard a random card off my hand, out of my hand from the life trigger here. Opponent, I'm really hoping at this point that a no Nolan is flipped here. Opponent's going to flip over a Nolan. Oh my gosh, that is so frustrating. Nolan, that's the one card. I honestly would have been happy with any other card going for my hand here. Noting that, oh man. So now this turn, I guess I'll just play a Wiper, kind of search for something, try to find another Kalgara. But man, not having that Nolan there really is unfortunate. That random, oh man, trash card right off the life there. Unfortunate. Yeah, I couldn't have played that any differently because I do have to swing with Kalgara first to be able to get something out here. I guess I could have swung at the Perona, but I just honestly did not even think about that coming out of life here. But that really hurt here. Gonna go play the Wiper. Wiper's gonna put a stage on the bottom, make me look at the top 5. Gonna grab a Kalgara, as that's the only option, I believe, out of that 5-hand gap here. And man, oh man, I don't even know what's that card called? Hollow something. But man, I forgot that some Morias run that card. That card just eats your hand away potentially if they can keep bringing it back to their hand with something like Hogback. But man, I'm struggling now. Opponent's gonna go ahead and swing 5 into my 6. I allow that to allow a correction there, and we're just gonna go ahead and counter out of that out of my life here. We're all friends here, but man, that Nolan discard just like really sullied the rest of my turn there. Opponent's gonna go ahead and play out Rebecca. Rebecca's gonna grab back a Hina. Hina's gonna come into play. Gonna put -4 on that nice little Kalgara that is as white as can be, making my Kalgara 2-drop. He's gonna go ahead and swing 6 into the 6 here, and then he's gonna discard 2 cards here. I elect, I believe at this point, to save the Ohm, so that Kalgara is gonna be gotten away from the Absalom coming out of trash here, and then I'm gonna choose to sacrifice a Ohm to save an Ohm, and then my opponent just goes and swings a Sabo there, and I'm looking a little sad. I gave up an Ohm for an Ohm, and then I lost the Ohm anyways. My hand is not looking very great right now, and this is kind of the position where I might just play a Big Mom, but my opponent's still at 3 life. I'm at 2 life. I just don't have a great presence here. Opponent just has Rebecca. Rebecca can just clean up any big attacks that I have coming at me. Opponent's just gonna go ahead and counter out of it. I do need to start paying attention to the board here, as this he's amassed quite the board. I like to call Gecko Moria the black version of Doflamingo, right? Doflamingo also can build a pretty wide board of 4 costs, and so does Moria. Now Moria has some additional tools that make him just a little bit stronger, because he can also build a board and KO your things, as well as having access to Gecko Moria. We're gonna go ahead and swing 5 at Perona here. My opponent probably likely seeing a potential option for going to game next turn if you know, my hand is 0 counter, so my opponent's just going to commit 2k there. We're going to go ahead and tap 7. We're going to play out the big mom here. Opponent's definitely not going to give me a life in this specific situation, so going to trash a life, take a Borsellino, and then I'm going to pass to my opponent. My opponent has currently 5 attackers. I am at 2 life with no counter in hand. The only thing that I have to save me is a potential, the Earth will not lose that event there, that it's going to give me plus 3,000. And allow me to put that upper yard in the hand. That upper yard could potentially find something to allow me to survive this turn. But man, am I in an absolute pickle. While I sit this pickle, we'll do a shout out to my community here. This deck was actually voted on. We do weekly polls. I allow people to choose, you know, what decks I'm running. Now we've been running polls almost every week. Now it may not be a fully weekly thing, as sometimes I have an agenda potentially in what I'm releasing. But Kalgara was voted on over Kaido. So if you want to be able to participate in some of these polls that can help decide what kind of content you see on this channel, definitely subscribe and like the video as well. All right, opponent's doing things. I'm going to go ahead and counter out some attack here. Try not to go to 0. That stage is going to come into play and find me a Wiper, which is a 2k. So now I've got a 2k in hand, but still 2 other counterless cards here. And my opponent still has a swath of Dawn to work with here. I am trying to potentially bait my opponent into swinging with the Sabo here, because I mean, if my opponent just attached everything, both sides, right, I think I honestly would just die. But I don't know if my opponent is thinking that I'm potentially bluffing, right? I did take a hit off life. I did search up a 2k, so right, my opponent potentially thinks I have something here. And my opponent, if he had just split the Dawn, I would have just been dead here. Just the likelihood of me hitting, you know, enough counter here out of life, like minimum of a 2k, would be not enough to get out of a big swing here. Opponent's instead just going to swing 6k and not activate effect here, sitting with 8 Dawn up at this point. Opponent is going to play out a Moria. Moria is going to bring back, I think, a Rebecca here. Rebecca, and then maybe put a 2k Perona in hand or something like that. Nope, he's going to bring back the Borsellino here. So he's passing back to me. He's got a full board and 2 blockers. I have 3 attackers and an ace in hand. He's got 1 card in hand and 2 life. I don't see myself getting out of this, especially with ripping another 1 cost event off the top. I've just got some very unfortunate draws. If, you know, that could have been another ace, maybe I could have gotten out of this, but we're in a complete pickle here. We're going to go ahead and swing 7 at lead here. Opponent is likely just going to take it here, as he's in, like, yellow doesn't have a way to get through unblockable blockers, right? Unless I had the event like flame splice or blade slice, one of the two, or 3 million volts, right, or 2 million volts. I would have been able to rest at least a 4-drop, but there is not really a way for us to rest 5 drops. Now, opponent does make a play there to just block with the Sabo there. I could have potentially got him there if I had the resting ability. Opponent shows me 2 2Ks off of a 8K swing. We're going to play the 5 cost ace, and we're just going to go ahead and swing 7. And we decided to take our attention away from the life there, because we do want to try to survive. But my opponent just has too much forces here. I have 2 Dawn up, but those 2 3k counters are not going to let me survive here. My opponent swings in for 9k, and I have to use both my counters to get out of it here. So we're going to just use both, and then my opponent can pretty easily math the game from this. I just hit an unfortunate amount of bricks. Hitting the Nolan, losing the Nolan off hand was very unfortunate. Opponent does hit a Shura. I'll be able to trigger that Shura into play. Shura's just going to grab me a 2k, but again, my opponent can just swing 7k and get right out of that. And that is unfortunately the game. Opponent was somewhat able to deal with my board to a degree, but also just flooded out on the board there, and he hit the Nolan out of hand, which was very unfortunate. But sometimes you win some, you lose some. This deck is an aggro deck, right? Sometimes you draw perfectly and you can get there, but unfortunately, I just kind of bricked up at the end there, and we weren't able to close the game here. With that in mind, if you enjoy this type of content, please subscribe and like the video. Let me know that you enjoy watching One Piece gameplay, and we'll see you in the next video.